Hello, everybody. This is Bennett Tchaikovsky, and welcome. This is External Financial Reporting and Corporate Social Responsibility. This is Accounting 262. Here we go with Part 3C, my nominating corporate governance, charters, and compensation committee. So my first one that we did in this Part 3A was going through and looking at governance and a bigger picture perspective. Part 3B, we were looking at the audit committee charter. And now we're going to take a look at these next parts over here. So my disclaimer and copyright notice, the information and opinions in this presentation are those of myself and not my employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District. The presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. This presentation is copyright 2008 to 2025 by Bennett Tchaikovsky. All rights are reserved. Any distribution is strictly prohibited. Note that this presentation will refer to companies and other parties or the third parties. The author does not claim any copyright that belongs to those third parties. So when we look at we looked at the audit committee charter, and again, if I'm a one-person corporation, do I need to have an audit committee? The answer is no. What this is that when we're going through and we become a publicly traded company and we are listed, if we want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the Nasdaq, those organizations require us to have a board of directors, which a majority of which must be independent. And at the same time, we also have to basically make sure that we have an audit committee, compensation committee, nominating and corporate governance committees, and there's also a requirement for a code of ethics. Now, these different requirements may change from time to time, but these are going to be the basic ones. And just give me a moment. So thank you, Brave AI. So audit committee, that was part 3B. And now we're going to talk about the compensation committee and nominating corporate governance committees. So again, different ways you can kind of go through and find things, but let's go ahead and take a look at these different committees. So right over here, when we look at the compensation committee charters, let's go first and take a look at the depot. Okay, so coming right over here, compensation, leadership development, and compensation. You have Wayne Hewitt, Stephanie Lenartz, and Karen Seidman Becker. All of these board members must be independent. So coming like right over here, you kind of see what the charter is. Now, the board, the compensation committee is generally what they'll do is they will hire experts to kind of say, are we paying our CEO and CFO fairly? The CEO and CFO may hire compensation committee compensation experts to say, hey, am I being paid fairly? And then we meet in the middle. And then what ends up happening is that the compensation committee will basically then make a recommendation to the overall board. So again, you have to be independent. Why? We do not want the CEO or CFO determining their own compensation if we are publicly traded. So right over here, powers of this: assist the board in developing and evaluating potential candidates for executive positions, including the CEO, review and approve the compensation strategy to make sure the management is afforded the appropriate incentives. Generally, anytime stock is being distributed, this usually will be going through the compensation committee. Again, don't quote me on this. And again, these videos are here to give you an idea in terms of where to go through and start. Review and evaluate. I think I'd also want to throw in the chief financial officer as well. I'm coming down over here, interpret and administer the omnibus documents as revised. And again, you're looking at this. You want to be using to use only independent compensation consultants. You got to basically make sure that do they actually meet? Because like, again, as a board member, you want to be going through and getting advice essentially from the outside. Now, here with Meta, and I'm going to show you why they've kind of combined this, is that they've got a compensation nominating corporate nominating governance committee charter. So they've put these two together, which, is fun. And I'm going to show you why, though, Meta has this. And you might say, oh, my goodness, they're trying to go cheap. No, no, no. They've got a lot of different committees for some very important reasons. So over here, you kind of go through and see that responsibilities and duties. Again, I'll post this up for you. Basically over here with the CEO. Surprised that I'm not, oh, okay, CEO and other executive officers. This is actually Zuckerberg. I'm coming over here. Okay, stock ownership guidelines. So again, you kind of see that that's essentially like what the compensation committee does. It is absolutely required because you do not want the CEO or CFO determining their own compensation. Okay. So coming over here, nominating and corporate governance. This is extremely important when it comes to hiring directors. You do not want the CEO or CFO appointing their friends to the board of directors. This is going to be coming over here generally initially from shareholders and then as ratified by the different, uh, by basically by the shareholders for reelection. So nominating corporate governance, it's extremely important again that this be done by independent directors. Let's go ahead and take a look at the depot. So over here, you've got committee members. As we can see, Karen Seiben-Becker, she's also on the compensation committee charter, basically to develop and implement procedures that are intended to ensure the board will be appropriately constituted and organized to meet its fiduciary obligations to the companies and its stockholders. Identify individuals qualified to become members of the board, basically look at the different nominees, the composition, the different meetings, powers, duties, and responsibilities. Looking at this down here, elections for committee chairs, uh, policies and procedures. You have to put stuff forward about insider trading, provide oversight of the company's policies and practices regarding political expenditures. Absolutely. Political activity policy, retain and terminate any search firm to use for finding director candidates. So this is obviously another kind of big one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Walt Disney Company. So over here, got over here the authority, membership, 3 or more directors, procedures, hold at least 2 meetings going through. I would also say too that when you're looking at different directors, I'm just going to pause it real quick. Okay, so when we look over here from Meta, and you can see, and this is actually kind of a good segue into what I was going to be talking about next, right? So, oh, they seem as though they've got the audit committee and risk oversight, but they also have a compensation nominating and governance committee. Oh, why do they transfer all these into one? Well, because they also have a privacy and product compliance committee charter. So clearly, given all of the things that have happened with Meta Platforms and Facebook over the formerly known as Facebook over the years, this is clearly extremely important to them. So this is obviously something that they're going to, put right up front is that, what is it? How are they ensuring privacy for their users? And again, I'm not touting Meta Platforms. I'm just using them as an example. I'm just more familiar with them than other publicly traded companies because I happen to like how they disclose certain items, or at least the way they used to. So here are the different officers of Meta Platforms. So as you kind of go through over here, so you've got Jennifer Newstead, Chief Legal Officer, Chris Cox, Chief Product Officer, but then we get to the board of directors. So Right. He's the founder and CEO. Mark Zuckerberg, because of his ownership interest, he cannot serve on any committees. So he's prohibited from serving on any independent director, any independent committees. Now, as we go down here, you start looking. Peggy, Miss Alford has been with the board since May of 2019. This lists out her background and it shows over here. She's a member of the Audit and Risk Compensation Committee, Privacy and Product Compliance, chair of the Comp Nominating Governments Committee. Over here, Mark is independent because he could not serve on this committee unless he was, in fact, independent. John Arnold is over here. Then Andrew Houston, Nancy Kilfer. You've got here you go. And we can kind of see like March 2020, February 2020. John Arnold doesn't say when he started, but over here since 2008. So you've got some that have been on the board for quite some time. And again, Mark Zuckerberg, as the chairman and CEO and majority shareholder because of voting rights, is pretty much going to be going through and can basically elect most of these board members. Mr. Tan over here since March 2006, Ms. Travis since March 2020. And when you're going through and electing directors, it's important that you come up with a diverse group of individuals. Why is that so important? Is because you want different types of thought. If you just have one train of thought, one type of person who's going to be at your company, that's probably not going to give you the best possible board. Again, these are my opinions. You want to have a variety of individuals and backgrounds in terms of where people are going through and what their backgrounds have been. So again, the importance of these committees to have independent directors, I cannot say enough. And I've also put in some links over here. Essentially over here, you've got the code of conduct. Why is this important? Because if we're going through over here, we're telling our employees, we're telling the world what we go through and expect from them, right? Defines the expectations we have for how we act and how we make decisions. We should really look at it when we have questions or face difficult trade-offs in great areas. So 5 principal guides. So again, does this have to be go through and do you really need a code of ethics? But again, I think they have one here. I'm just probably not seeing it directly. Okay. So last one over here, we've got some stock ownership guidelines. We'll just kind of take a look at these. Basically required such executive officers and directors are required to basically own a certain amount of shares. And there you go. Which it's not a bad thing. I'll be a director of Meta Platforms, Mr. Zuckerberg. I'm just kidding. I would impair my independence. Right over here. And this is the last one I wanted to go through and look at. So for Meta, because of the business that they're in, they've gone through over here and they have this as like compliance with a comprehensive privacy program adopted by the company in compliance with the Federal Trade Commission. So the FTC clearly went to Meta Platforms and said, you need to go through and have this special section of your board that's going through and looking at this. So again, they combined nominating and corporate governance, and then they added in this particular basically part. So in kind of in summary and like looking at all these different ones, just remember that if you are publicly traded and you're going to be listed on the Nasdaq, if you are going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, you have to have an audit committee, compensation committee, nominating and corporate governance, and you can have other committees. You also, I believe, have to have a code of ethics that's established and published. Code of conduct is probably also serving that as well. And all of these different items need to be published on a company's website. So thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below or comments. We welcome those. I try to answer them. Just please don't put up like, oh, did you see this thing from Binance? I mean, really? So in any event, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a good one.